"You're done here," my boss smirked, blaming me for his son's $2 million error. But when I walked into the shareholders meeting with a USB drive, his face turned white. The security footage showed everything, and now the company is mine. I never thought I'd be the one to bring down Marcus Sterling. But then again, I never thought he'd try to destroy my life over his son's mistake. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and until 3 months ago, I was the Chief Financial Officer at Sterling Technologies, one of the fastest-growing software companies in Seattle. I earned that position through 15 years of dedication, starting as an entry-level accountant when the company was nothing more than a small startup operating out of a converted warehouse. Back then, Marcus Sterling still had dreams in his eyes instead of dollar signs. He was a mentor, someone I looked up to, someone who taught me everything about running a successful business. "Sarah, you have the sharpest mind for numbers I've ever seen," he used to say, his gray eyes twinkling with genuine appreciation. That was before his son, James, joined the company, before the money changed everything. I remember the day it all started to unravel. It was a crisp autumn morning, and I was reviewing our quarterly reports when I noticed something odd. A series of transactions, totaling just over $2 million, had been authorized without proper documentation. The signatures were there, but the paperwork was incomplete, and the timing seemed off. "Diane," I called to my assistant, "can you pull up the authorization records for these transactions?" I pointed to my screen, showing her the dates in question. Diane's fingers flew over her keyboard, her brow furrowing as she dug deeper into our database. "That's strange," she muttered. "The digital signatures are there, but the preliminary approval forms are missing. And," she paused, double-checking something, "these were all processed after hours, between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. My stomach tightened. In 15 years, I'd never seen a legitimate transaction processed during those hours. "Who authorized them?" "James Sterling," Diane replied, her voice dropping to a whisper. James Sterling, the CEO's only son, had joined the company just 6 months ago as vice president of operations. Despite his fancy MBA from Harvard, he had shown little interest in learning the actual workings of the business. Instead, he spent most of his time in his corner office, planning expensive client dinners and bragging about deals he hadn't really closed. I knew I had to handle this carefully. Marcus had become increasingly protective of James over the past few months, brushing off concerns about his son's lack of experience and dismissing complaints from other executives. But $2 million in questionable transactions couldn't be ignored. I spent the next 2 days meticulously documenting everything. The missing approvals, the unusual timing, the lack of supporting documentation. I even discovered that the supposed client companies these transactions were meant for didn't seem to exist beyond paper registrations dated just weeks before the money transfers. On Thursday morning, I requested a private meeting with Marcus. His secretary, Barbara, who'd known me for years, gave me a sympathetic look as she showed me into his office. "Sarah," Marcus greeted me without looking up from his computer. "Make it quick. I have a board meeting in an hour." "Marcus, we need to talk about some irregular transactions I've discovered." I kept my voice steady as I placed the folder on his desk. "There's been a series of payments, totaling approximately $2 million, that appear to violate our internal controls." He finally looked up, his expression unreadable. And the transactions were authorized by James, but the receiving companies appear to be shells. "I'm concerned we might be looking at potential fraud." Marcus leaned back in his chair, a strange smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "You're concerned about my son's business decisions?" "I'm concerned about protecting the company," I corrected. "These transactions are perfectly legitimate," he cut me off. "James is modernizing our investment strategy. Perhaps if you spent more time adapting to new business models instead of questioning your superiors, you'd understand that." I felt my face flush. "Marcus, please look at the evidence. These companies don't exist. The money is Enough." He slammed his hand on the desk. "I've heard enough of your accusations. You're supposed to be supporting this company's growth, not undermining my son's initiatives." "But you're done here, Sarah." His voice turned cold, dismissive. "Pack your things. Barbara will have your termination papers ready in an hour. And be grateful I'm not pressing charges for defamation." I stood there, stunned. 15 years of loyalty, of building this company together, erased in a moment. But as I turned to leave, I caught something in the reflection of his window, James, standing just outside the office door, smirking. What they didn't know was that I had something they hadn't counted on. For the past year, as part of our security upgrade, I had insisted on installing a comprehensive camera system throughout the office, including in the server room where financial transactions were processed. Every late-night visit, every unauthorized access, every conversation, it was all recorded. And I had the only copy of the footage from the past 6 months stored safely on a USB drive in my personal safe. As I packed my office, ignoring the pitying looks from my colleagues, I received a text from William Chun, the head of our largest investment group and a member of the board. "Don't do anything rash. Call me tomorrow." I smiled, slipping my phone into my pocket. Marcus Sterling thought he was protecting his son, but he'd just made the biggest mistake of his life. And I had the evidence to prove it. The morning after my termination, I sat in my home office, staring at the USB drive that contained everything. My hands shook slightly as I plugged it into my laptop and began reviewing the footage again. The first video showed James entering the server room at 11:43 p.m. on October 15th. He wasn't alone. A man I'd never seen before, tall, well-dressed, with a distinctive scar on his left cheek, followed him in. They spent 47 minutes at the terminal, and I watched as James authorized the first transfer of $750,000. "Mr. Sterling, you really should be more careful." William Chen's words from our breakfast meeting earlier that morning echoed in my mind. We had met at a small cafe far from the office, where he revealed something interesting. "The board has been concerned about these unusual transactions for weeks, but your termination, that was unexpected." William, it turned out, had been conducting his own investigation. As the representative of our largest investment group, he had access to information I didn't, including complaints from legitimate clients about delayed payments and mysterious account changes. "The board meeting is in 3 days," he had said, sliding a business card across the table. "This is Thomas Bradford, one of the best corporate attorneys in the city. Call him." I did more than call him. I spent the next 2 days in Bradford's office, going through every piece of evidence. The security footage showed James making 5 separate visits to the server room over 2 weeks, always late at night, always with the same scarred man. "This is quite something," Bradford mused, adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses as he reviewed the footage. "But the real smoking gun is this." He pointed to a frame showing James and his companion examining what appeared to be a passport. When we enhanced the image, the name was clearly visible: Viktor Petrov, a known financial fraudster wanted in 3 countries. "Marcus will try to claim you doctored this footage," Bradford warned. "We need to move carefully." I nodded, remembering something else. The original backup system. It automatically uploads to a secure cloud server every 48 hours. James shouldn't know about it. It was implemented before he joined. Bradford's eyes lit up. "Can you access it?" "No," I smiled, "but I know someone who can." Enter Michael Zhang, Sterling Technologies head of IT security and my longtime friend. While I had been fired, Michael was still there, and he had access to everything. "What they did to you was wrong," Michael said when we met secretly that evening. "I've already downloaded the cloud backups. They match your footage exactly." The next piece fell into place when Diana, my former assistant, called. "Sarah, you need to see this," she whispered. "James just ordered me to shred some documents, but I made copies first." The documents were wire transfer authorizations, all signed by James, all to companies registered under Viktor Petrov's known aliases. It was a money laundering scheme, pure and simple. "Your father built this company from nothing," I had once heard Marcus tell James. "Soon it will all be yours." How ironic that James might now destroy everything his father had built. The night before the board meeting, I received another call, this time from Barbara, Marcus's secretary. "Ms. Mitchell," her voice trembled, "Mr. Sterling is planning something. He's called an emergency vote to remove several board members, including Mr. Chun. He's claiming they're part of a conspiracy against the company." I thanked her and immediately called William. "They're making their move," I said. "We need to act now." "The board meeting starts at 9 a.m., he replied. "Be ready." That night, I barely slept. I reviewed every document, every video frame, making sure nothing was missing. At 7 a.m., I put on my best suit, the one I'd worn when Marcus promoted me to CFO, and drove to the office. Security tried to stop me at the door, but William was waiting in the lobby. "She's with me," he said firmly. "Board members' privilege." The boardroom was tense when we entered. Marcus sat at the head of the table, James beside him, both looking confident. The other board members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Viktor Petrov, introduced as Mr. Peterson, our new international finance consultant, sat in the corner, his scar visible even under careful makeup. Marcus's smile faltered when he saw me. "This is a closed meeting. Security." "Actually," William stood, "Ms. Mitchell is here at my request, and as per company bylaws, I have the right to call witnesses in matters of corporate governance." I walked to the front of the room, plugging my USB drive into the presentation system. "Before you vote on anything," I said clearly, "there's something you need to see." The color drained from James's face as the first video began to play. By the time I finished presenting all the evidence, the footage, the documents, the wire transfers, and Viktor Petrov's real identity, Marcus was no longer smiling. "This is absurd," he sputtered. "These are lies, fabrications. The cloud server backups confirm everything," William announced. "And Mr. Petrov's presence here today. Well, that's particularly interesting." On cue, the boardroom doors opened again. 2 FBI agents walked in, their badges glinting. "Mr. Petrov," one said, "we've been looking for you." What happened next was chaos. Petrov tried to run, but was quickly apprehended. James began crying, pointing fingers at everyone else. And Marcus just sat there, watching his empire crumble. The board voted unanimously to suspend both Sterling's pending a full investigation. By the end of the day, Sterling Technologies needed new leadership. "There's really only one choice," William said during the emergency session that followed. "Someone who knows this company inside and out, who protected it even when it cost her everything." And that's how, 3 months after being fired, I became the new CEO of Sterling Technologies. Taking over Sterling Technologies as CEO wasn't just about revenge. It was about setting things right. The day after the board meeting, I walked into my new office, Marcus's old office, and found a post-it note stuck to the computer monitor. In Barbara's neat handwriting, it read, "The company needs you. We all do." The first month was a whirlwind of damage control. The FBI investigation revealed that James and Petrov had stolen closer to $5 million, not just the $2 million I'd initially discovered. They had been siphoning money through a complex network of shell companies, using Sterling Technologies' legitimate business dealings as cover. "The press is going to have a field day with this," Michael warned, dropping a thick folder on my desk. "Social media is already buzzing with rumors." I took a deep breath, straightening my jacket. "Then we'll control the narrative. Schedule a press conference. It's time for complete transparency." The press conference was held in our main lobby. Cameras flashed as I stepped up to the podium, William and the board standing supportively behind me. "Sterling Technologies was built on innovation, integrity, and trust," I began. "Recent events have shaken that foundation, but they have not broken it. Today, I want to speak directly to our employees, our clients, and our shareholders." I detailed the fraud, our immediate response, and most importantly, our path forward. No sugarcoating, no corporate doublespeak. Just the truth. The response was overwhelming. Our stock, which had plummeted when the scandal broke, began to stabilize. Clients who had been wavering called to express their continued support. But the most meaningful reactions came from within. "You should see the employee message boards," Diana, now my executive assistant, told me over coffee. "Everyone's sharing stories about how you helped them over the years. The junior accountants are particularly vocal. They remember how you always made time to mentor them, even as CFO. But not everything was smooth sailing. Marcus's loyalists within the company began causing problems. Gregory Peterson, the head of sales and Marcus's golf buddy, started spreading rumors that I had orchestrated the whole thing to seize power. I called him into my office one afternoon. "Gregory," I said, sliding a folder across my desk, "I think it's time we discussed your own creative accounting." His face paled as he opened the folder to find documentation of his padded expense reports and kickback schemes. "How did you? I was CFO for 5 years, Gregory. Did you think I didn't notice?" I kept quiet, then out of respect for Marcus. "But now?" I smiled. "You have until the end of the day to resign." He resigned within the hour. The real challenge came 3 months into my tenure. Marcus Sterling, out on bail and facing his own legal troubles, launched a desperate bid to reclaim control. He called in old favors, pressured shareholders, and even tried to paint himself as a victim of his son's actions. He's convinced 3 minor shareholders to back him, William informed me one evening. He's demanding an emergency shareholder meeting. I leaned back in my chair, surprisingly calm. Let him try. The shareholder meeting was set for a week later. Marcus strode in like he still owned the place, his expensive suit unable to hide the toll the scandal had taken on him. He looked older, desperate. This company is my life's work, he declared to the assembled shareholders. I built it from nothing. Sarah Mitchell is an opportunist who took advantage of a family tragedy to steal what's rightfully mine. I waited until he finished before standing. Mr. Sterling is right about one thing, I said. He did build this company from nothing. I know because I was there, working alongside him, believing in his vision. But somewhere along the way, he forgot what made Sterling Technologies great. Its people, its principles, its integrity. I gestured to my team, who distributed comprehensive packets to every shareholder. In the 3 months since I became CEO, our stock has recovered 60% of its losses. We've retained 98% of our clients. Employee satisfaction is at an all-time high. And most importantly, I paused, making eye contact with Marcus. We've implemented new security measures and financial controls that make it impossible for anyone, no matter their name or position, to abuse their power. The shareholders voted overwhelmingly to keep the current leadership. Marcus left without a word, but the look he gave me spoke volumes. He finally understood what his actions had cost him. A year has passed since then. Sterling Technologies has not only recovered but thrived. We've expanded into new markets, launched innovative products, and built a corporate culture based on transparency and merit. James and Petrov were convicted of fraud and money laundering. They're serving their sentences in federal prison. Marcus avoided jail time through a plea deal, but his reputation was destroyed. Last I heard, he was living in Florida, writing a memoir about corporate betrayal that no publisher will touch. As for me, I kept the same photo on my office wall that I had as CFO, a picture of the original Sterling Technologies warehouse where I started as an entry-level accountant. It reminds me every day that success isn't about power or money. It's about doing what's right, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Yesterday, a young accountant came to my office, nervous but determined, with evidence of a minor discrepancy in our Asian division's reports. As I listened to her careful explanation, I couldn't help but smile. The company was in good hands. Thank you for bringing this to my attention, I told her. This is exactly what integrity looks like. She beamed as she left my office, and I turned to look out the window at the Seattle skyline. Sterling Technologies wasn't just my company now, it was my legacy, and I would make sure it remained something worth being proud of.